Nagaland and Armed Forces Special Powers Act. 14 people died in the firing of armed forces in Nagaland on 5th of December. Some of them are coal mine workers who are coming back after work, and others are their friends, relatives and other villages. Home Minister Amit Shah, in his statement, said that the firing has taken place in defense of armed forces. It is a ridiculous lie. It is a ruthless massacre. When there is a firing from the other side on army, retorting with fire will be self-defense. If they wanted to stop the vehicle, they should have put barricades. It was not put. They were killed as they were expecting, the military was expecting some militants on this way. No compensation is announced by the Union government till today. Nagaland is a turbulent area for a long time. Modi government announced that there is some accord with the Nagaland militants, but the nation was never taken into confidence to declare it openly. Our citizens has got a right to know what is the accord. Mr. Remi, who negotiated, was given a plum post of governor recently. This ghastly incident in Nagaland may again trigger militancy by the rebels. Court of inquiry will not help to punish the culprits because the armed forces are shielded by Armed Special Powers Act. Armed Forces Special Powers Act is first introduced by the British in the country somewhere in 1942 to crush the people's movements in the so-called disturbed areas. In the independent India, it was introduced in 1958, covering some parts of Assam. At that time, there was no separate state of Nagaland. It was a part of Assam. And later, 6 other eastern states are also covered by Armed Forces Special Powers Act. That means all the 7 sisters are brought under this act. There was a Assam Rifles, which was very unpopular and hated by the people of northeastern states. Later it was replaced. Many innocents, along with rebels, were killed in last several years. 2 decades back, 20 innocent people were killed in Manipur. Some of them were standing in bus stand. I remember another incident when I was in Manipur. One innocent man who was purchasing medicine in a medical shop was killed on the spot. He was mistaken as a rebel. One Manorama Devi was raped and killed, which enraged women of Manipur to demonstrate naked with a banner, "Rape us." Entire nation's attention was drawn with this naked protests by senior women. Sharmila carried on hunger strike for almost 16 years against the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. She was forcibly fielded the government by all these years. It was extended to Punjab during Khalistani movement. It was there for 14 years. From 1990, it was made applicable in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and still it is in force. When I was a member of parliament, I led an all-party delegation to Home Minister and to the Prime Minister. They agreed that there are some excesses, but it needs in some areas to control the rebels. They said they will reconsider it. Strange argument of them was that armed forces will be demoralized if it was withdrawn. This is a unconvincing argument on behalf of the government of India. Armed forces are in the hands of the government, not the government in the hands of armed forces. It is true that there are some rebels and some places some tough stand is necessary. But this Armed Forces Special Powers Act in no way is useful to control them. There were several other delegations also from northeastern states, particularly Manipur, to withdraw this draconian act. It was withdrawn from Tripura, later Mizoram and Meghalaya. But it still continues in parts of Assam, Nagaland and whole of Manipur, except Imphal. United Nations Human Rights Commission repeatedly asked the government of India to withdraw it as it will not suit the democracy. Justice Jivan Reddy Commission recommended Armed Forces Special Powers Act as this act is a symbol of hate, oppression and an instrument of high-handedness. It has submitted its report on 6th June 2005. After 10 years, Government of India in 2015 rejected the recommendation made by Justice Jivan Reddy Commission to repeal the AFSPA. There was a Santosh Hegde Commission on Manipur encounter deaths. This is a high-power commission headed by retired Supreme Court Judge, then Santosh Hegde. And J.M. Lindo, a senior police officer, were also in the commission. Lindo was former Chief Election Commissioner of India. They inquired about the encounter deaths and they have come to a conclusion that none of the victims had any criminal records. That means innocents were killed. And this commission felt that this AFSA is not helping to control the armed rebels in these states. There should be some sort of different type of arrangement. And they also said armed forces should be made accountable for unruly behavior in insurgency regions. The Commission noted that AFSPA was an impediment in achieving peace in regions such as Jammu and Kashmir and Northeast. But nothing was done after it. Even the second alternate Administrative Reforms Commission, in its fifth report on public order, recommended to repeal Armed Forces Special Powers Act 1958. It commented that its scrapping would remove sentiments of discrimination and alienation among the people of Northeast India. The Commission recommended to amend the Unlawful Activities Act, inserting a new chapter to deploy armed forces of the Union in northeastern states. Even the Supreme Court has said the encounters carried by the armed forces in the garb of Special Powers Act should go through the inquiry. In the words of Supreme Court, it doesn't matter whether it is a common person or a militant terrorist. Nor does it matter whether an aggressor or a common person in the state. The law is the same for both and is equally applicable to both. This is the requirement of democracy and the requirement of preservation of the rule of law and the preservation of individual liberties. But unfortunately, neither the Congress government earlier nor the BJP government under Narendra Modi now is not ready to reconsider Armed Forces Special Powers Act. This is anti-democratic. This should not be allowed to continue. It is not a problem of only the people of Northeast states and people of Jammu and Kashmir. It's a problem of the people of entire country to defend democracy. There should be more pressure on the government to reconsider this act. Unfortunately, even our army is not ready to think of alternatives. General Rawat, who is now the Chief Coordinator of Armed Forces of India, has made a remark once which has shocked the country. He said, a nation which is not afraid of its army is doomed. This is really very objectionable statement. Why should the people be afraid of the army? The enemies of the country across the border, they should be afraid of the army. The anti-nationals should be afraid of the army. Why the entire people? People should love and be affectionate to armed forces as they defend our borders. This type of attitude that may be responsible for not accepting the repeal of Armed Forces Special Powers Act. There was enough pressure in the Parliament. Now it should be continued. It should be continued as a people's movement throughout the country to force the government to withdraw the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and defend democracy. Thank you.